Homebound Travelers. Welcome to today's episode of Will of the Dice Presents Cast Guidance. I'm Tyr the DM, the world's okayest DM. And with me today we have the unruly one, Loch Clark. Hi, Loch.
Hi, everybody. How's it going?
And we have with us Raff.
Greetings, Raff the Mad here again to discuss strange things and chicanery as we go through this lovely episode of Cast Guidance, or Cast Tangent as it gets.
Us, Cast Tangent? No.
Never.
Before we get started, I do have some announcements to make. First and foremost, we are for mature audiences. If you're not part of the mature audiences, you may want to leave, especially if you're offended by the word fuck, because I use that a lot. Secondly, we are in no way, shape, form affiliated, associated with anyone like Wizards of the Coast or anything like that. We're just here to give our questionable opinion on TTRPG shit.
Very questionable.
Yes,
Very questionable.
very.
We do have some announcements about dice. Loch?
Hi, gamers. I'm Loch Clark, and I'm here to talk to you about our partners in this endeavor, Level Up Dice, fine purveyors of luxury dice for all your sexy dice needs. And today, because I haven't talked about them on this show yet, I'm going to talk to you about the brand new in the store, Ionized Constellation Obsidian Dice. These are, they are so pretty. They're a matte black obsidian die. They have a constellation glyphic pattern around the numbers, and the numbers in the constellation pattern are ionized, which means they shift colors as you turn and move the dice, kind of like oil on water. They're gorgeous, and you really need to go check those out. And to do that, you're going to go through our portal because it makes us look good, and you want us to look good. So you're going to go to https://bit.ly/L, Will of the Dice, all one word. That's bit.ly/LUD, Will of the Dice. Go and check those out also. We would like to thank the musician who made our theme song for this show. And that's our very own Patrick Taylor. Thanks, Pants!
Thank you, Pats.
Also, we at Will of the Dice do not condone or encourage the use of nicotine products like vaping. Just because we do it doesn't mean you should. We do all kinds of things. Do as we say, not as we do. But if you want to do it, then enjoy it. You're grown-ass adults.
And if you want to quit, we support you.
Yes. And there's resources out there. Just go to the Googles. Okay, so today our main topic is going to be generating stats for D&D 5e. However, I have a bitch, and I've got to get this bitch off my chest. Wizards of the Coast, you bought D&D Beyond. Do better. Make spell descriptions in D&D Beyond more understandable, and try including the whole fucking thing. When you have tables, put the tables at the bottom. We encountered an issue where I did not realize that if you had an object from a location, you could use that to teleport. Because the description, it's buried under the tables. And I just read the top part of the description, familiarity. Yeah, it's on me for not being thorough. But it was still very confusing, even looking at it now, knowing it's there. So that's my bitch.
I only knew it was there to be able to tell you, and I felt so weird. Like, I kept saying, like, I wasn't sure, because I know that Venfira has shadow magic, and my thought was, as a player, like, well, maybe her spell teleport works differently than the base teleport spell. So maybe I'm wrong when I keep saying, but I have an object, I have a thing from there, we could teleport there, right? And then I was like, okay, well, if your magic doesn't work that way, maybe if I go to one of the casters in the tribe and ask them to teleport, because I have a thing from there. And then Tyr's like, no, that's not how teleport works. And I'm like, but it is. I played a wizard who had teleport, and I went around. The character would literally, he kept twine paper in his pouch, and he would take, and he would write a location's name on a scrap of paper, pick up a rock from there, wrap it around, tie a string around it, and drop it into his pouch. And so whenever he needed to teleport the party somewhere, he just reached into the pouch until he found the stone with that name on it, and then he teleported them, and then he put the stone back in the bag. Because there are only two things that eliminate the mishap chance on the teleport spell, and that is a circle, having a dedicated teleportation circle, or using an associated object. And everything else, you have at least a 5% mishap chance.
Or off target. The next
Right.
one is very familiar, and you have a 25% chance of not landing where you want to.
Yes.
It's-
Off target, landing in a similar area, or a mishap. Mishaps are the worst. Those are where you take damage. That's if you're a Harry Potter fan, you squelch. And that's not good. So yeah, and then like the highest chance is if I love this one, false destination. If someone tells you about a place that you've never been, but they lie to you and you try to teleport there, you have a 50-50 chance of either squelch or you land somewhere similar to what they described.
Yep. Like I said, that's just looking at the table. There's so much chicanery that can be done with that.
Not that I was wanting chicanery.
Never, not
but
you.
No.
Rainbows, puppies, and unicorns, right?
Rainbows, puppies, and unicorns.
Yeah. Rabid
Yeah.
puppies, stabby rainbows, and
Angry unicorns.
stabby unicorns and angry rainbows. Yes, that's what I was going for.
Mm,
Yeah, no, I mean that's the spell description on teleport is a long one, and sometimes not all the time. Some D&D Beyond spells that have long descriptions, they got everything in there. When you click on the spell on your character sheet, like as a cleric, when I cast Summon Celestial, I get the full table. I get everything when I click on it on my character sheet, including the stat block for the Celestial. Shows up in the spell description. But on some spells, they only put the base spell description in. They don't put all the extra stuff in. So they really need to go through that and look at how it's porting into how each spell is porting into the character sheet and make sure that they've got all of them all the way in there. It happens on some character abilities too. Like there are some where I'm like, I remember this ability doing this thing. Let me go and pull up that actual ability by searching it in D&D Beyond rather than just trusting what it says on the sheet. And oftentimes you'll find there's extra text that just wasn't there on the sheet. So it's a little annoying, but most of the time D&D Beyond works really well.
Yeah, most of the time. Yeah, there have been some changes, subtle ones here recently, so we'll see how those go over.
So I'm hopeful with Wizards of the Coast buying D&D Beyond that we get more better. For like Mo better.
Yeah. We'll see. I am cautious. That's a word to describe it. Cautious. I'm trying not to be cynical today.
Oh,
we do remember he needed to mute his laptop.
I just want to take a minute and say thank you guys for tuning in and hanging out with us today. We do this and we love sharing it with you. We love sitting around and bullshitting about rules and just TTRPGs in general, but it's so great to have you along.
Yes, the audience is the best.
We have the best fans. We may not have the numbers that bigger productions like Critical Role have. Don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking Critical Role. Love Critical Role. Love my fellow critters. But our torchbearers are the best.
They are.
Yes.
All right, so stat generation. There's multiple ways to do this, but I'm going to start out with you, Ref. What is your favorite way as a DM or as a player to generate stats?
As a DM, I like the point buy system because I can set the level of the campaign that way. if the players and I want a campaign where everybody's super, the superhero type, I could put the point buy higher or give you more points so you can inflate your stats a little bit better. If we want a little grittier, a little harder campaign, you can moderate that down by giving them less points. So from a DM standpoint, it helps kind of set the character up with the level of points you give your players. That's why I tend to prefer the point buy system. It takes out the randomness. If a character wants, I want to be this type of character, okay, you got the points. You can spend the points to become that type of character versus, well, I'm not going to be the sorcerer today because my intelligence or my charisma is 5. So,
Okay, so for those of you that don't know, the way point buy works is you start with a base 8 in all your stats. By the rules, you have 27 points that you can spend to elevate these stats, and each stat is to go above each number above 8 is a point. But by the rules, it caps out at 15. So, like, if you want a strength 15, you're dropping 9 points to get that 15. So you're saying that you homebrew it though, so that you can use more points to elevate higher.
Or use less points if you want to make it a little harder.
That's awesome.
And, for the DM side, that to me that gives you that, I don't want to say control, but that ability to kind of put that scale out there depending on how you want to set up your campaign.
Very cool. What's your favorite way, Loch?
I like standard array. Just because I like starting off all of the arguably both standard array and point buy start the party off on even footing. But I think with and both are modifiable, as you well know. So you can modify the standard array. You can change and tweak what the array you're giving your players is. So I guess you could use a non-standard array, but I like an array method. That way everyone has the same stats. It's where you choose to put them and what your racial bonuses are, which now with the way they do race, which is so much better than letting you choose where you put your stats. So basically everybody has the same stats and they just put them, wherever they want. I think point buy is really good, but I think the array, especially like if you want to play a higher tier campaign, see what I did there? If you want to play, a higher power level, more epic hero campaign, you start them off with a scaled up array. Or you can scale down the array if you want everyone to be like really gritty and in the streets at the beginning of the campaign. So yeah, I like that because it's more egalitarian. And I've played with some stupid people who will hurt their characters in order to have that one maxed out stat at the beginning. Who will, I'm going to have a 2 intelligence because I'm going to sell off all of my intelligence, and okay, that's fine, but you're really hurting yourself in order to do one thing really well, and that's maybe not so smart. So let's all just have the same stats.
So for years and years and years, decades, I was all about rolling 4d6, dropping the lowest, do it 6 times. There you go. I absolutely hated the standard array when it was first introduced to me. But I decided when I was running the quarantine players campaign, when the pandemic was at its full swing and everybody was in quarantine, I started a campaign to help alleviate people's loneliness and boredom and give them something to look forward to. I had 13 players. Oh my God, it was chaos. But I decided then that I would try standard array, and I absolutely fell in love with it. Now, I don't use the standard array out of the book. I have my own array I use. As Loch said, a non-standard array. Because I think everybody should be really good at least one thing. But I love standard array because it keeps all my players on a level field. And everybody, like you said, like everybody has the same stats, so there's not that one character that it's like uber powerful because they got lucky rolling and everybody else sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and here's the thing, I played for decades playing D&D, and I thought that I had the nicest GM in the world when he let us roll 4d6, drop the lowest, re-roll ones. I mean, oh my god, we're gonna be so powerful, y'all. But but at the same time, sometimes I tend to roll really well, and so sometimes I want a low stat for a character reason, for a this is important to the character that they be bad at something, and
Mm-hmm.
being bad at things makes the game more interesting. And so you get, sometimes you don't roll a bad stat and suddenly your character's uber. I played in a game once. My eldest stepchild was running the game. They were in their 20s at the time, running the game, and they had us 4d6, drop the lowest, reroll ones. I rolled up a character with 3 18s
Oof.
and was like, I will re-roll this. I am sorry. And they were like, nope, those are your stats. And I was like, are you sure? Because I'm playing a Goliath monk. Do you really want the Goliath monk to have 3 fucking 18s? Because that seems wrong. And they're like, no, that's what you rolled. And I'm like, okay,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to break this game, and I'm sorry.
And the DM in the back's going, scramble, scramble. All right, how do we kill him off without killing the rest of the party?
Oh, we're going to talk. Stock brought up something, and I've seen this on social medias, and I've often wondered how it would work. You take and make a grid. You do 3 columns, 3 rows, or 6 rows.
Mm-hmm.
Columns, rows, yeah. You roll 46, drop the lowest. You do that to fill all the boxes, and then you pick from each column and each row to get your stats. I did this as an example, as just shits and giggles, creating a generic character just to see how it worked. I had all 18s. As a DM, there's no way in hell I would let that player on my table. I couldn't, because it wouldn't be fair to everybody else, because I'd have to it wouldn't be fun.
No.
No, the way you moderate for that, I think, and I don't know, we'd have to do some testing on this, but I think if you said you roll your columns or whatever, and then every time you pick a stat, you eliminate that line. You can't pick anything else that's in that line.
Mm-hmm.
That might make it so you can't have all 18s, or I mean, you might still wind up with all 18s. I don't know. We would have to play with it to see. But if there's an elimination, like once you use a number in that column or that line or whatever, that the rest of that line or column is gone, that might make it better.
That would work. Also, drop the reroll ones. Keep ones into that. Then
Yeah,
it's a straight. There you go. Or maybe make straight 3d6
yeah.
in your array. Because then there's
me personally, when it comes to generating characters, I am the luckiest fucker in the world when it comes to rolling 3d6. I'm like you, Locke. I've rolled many characters that had 3 or 4 18s at the table in front of the DM, and the DM looking at me like, "What the fuck do I do now?" And me over here like, "Wow."
uh-huh.
Whereas I would feel guilty in that moment. I'd be like, "Oh God, what have I done?"
Kinda, but if you look at the style of campaign you're running, to jump over to our Pathfinder campaign that I've been playing for the past few years, the DM had us roll 66 per stat, drop lowest or change it. We all have high level stats, but the entire party has the high level stats, and our campaign is run as we're running as high level characters running around. So if everyone's running at 17s, 18s, the high end of the stat lane, okay, then it's where the issue I think comes is when you have characters who have 3 or 2, 3 18s, and those who have nothing. They're running at 14s and 15s at best in the characters. Then you start to see the disparity in the characters.
And that's
And
that's where my guilt comes from, because my partner, when he would roll, like, he had the worst luck rolling. Period. The end. Full stop. The worst luck rolling at anything, and would come up and be like, "I've got 3 9s and a 13. These are my stat," and I'm like, "I've got 4 18s," and like, and I'd feel really bad because like our two characters side by side, we're playing twins. Oh God, like, we're
Danny DeVito,
Paramount. Like, what the fuck?
Danny DeVito, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, like. So that's where my guilt comes from, is from 20 plus years of playing with my partner who rolled horribly while I rolled really well.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things I like about the standard array and even the points buy, is that you keep a level playing field. Now, my array, and I'll give it to you guys, and I'll even put it in chat once I've said it out loud. I do 18, 16, 14, 12, 12, 10. Because I think everybody should be really good at something, but I think everybody should be really bad at something as well. So I think that it levels the field, and it puts everybody where the entire party is pretty much on the same plane, so you don't have that one person just running rampant and stealing the show and everybody else getting their ass whipped every single combat.
And here's the thing that I've discovered playing in 3 of your campaigns with that array now, and this is why I really like it. With that array in particular, you almost never have to use your at 4 interval of ability score improvement to bump an ability score, because your ability scores are all good. There's almost never a reason to bump an ability score, and you might have to do it once, which leaves a lot of room for taking feats. And I'm a big proponent of feats. Feats make the characters, they give you niche things that make your characters seem cooler and more fun. And so the more opportunities you have to take feats, not feeling obligated to bump your stat, really, I think, opens up the game to more interesting things. So anything that gets us more feats. Speaking of that, and I'm going to call Tyr out on the air here for a second.
I'm
gonna put him on the spot, so he's going to say no to me, but that's okay. I anticipate that.
We're find a shield.
So Tyr, I seem to recall at the start of Scions, you let us start with a feat. Am I remembering that right? And are we going to do that next time?
No, we're not.
Okay. Damn it. Had to try.
I cast invisibility.
Fade into the background. No, we're not starting with feats. I'll make sure to add that caveat into the.
I thought I'd ask. I mean, I seem to remember, but then I'm looking at my character sheet. It didn't seem that way, and I was like, I don't remember. But I remember us having a conversation about it. And it was maybe it was in the early audition phase where we got to have a feat right out the gate.
You got to have a feat in the audition, but all the auditions were 6th level or higher.
They were 6th level or higher, but I thought you gave us a bonus one at starting at some point for something. I don't remember. I may be wrong. Yeah, no. And for the audience, since Lollipop put up the tier array, the standard array normally is 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, 8 is the regular standard array. And, growing up playing D&D, we used manual rolls, obviously, as we've already talked about. But then sometime in college is when I really branched out into other role-playing systems, and we started playing things like Vampire the Masquerade and Champions and GURPS and other systems that did not have a level system and were all point buy. And I really loved the egalitarianness of those systems and so when D&D put out something, the standard array and the point buy, that sort of did the same thing that those other games that I really liked did, I was super for it, and those became my favorite way to do it. Because yeah, I mean, there's a lot of systems that aren't D&D out there, guys, and Vampire the Masquerade and GURPS in particular, champions as well. When you get XP, and then you immediately can turn around and spend your XP to up a stat, to up a skill, to buy a new ability, to give yourself
Yep.
another cool power. You can spend your XP instantly, and all of the characters have, in theory, the same number of points to play with. And every time the group gets XP, we all get the same XP, and so all of our characters remain on the same level. It's just where you spend your points.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really enjoyed that as a mechanic. Not that I don't like the level system in D&D, I do.
Mm-hmm. And to throw a cast tangent here, you said you like the feat system.
Yes,
in general.
absolutely.
And I don't know, noticing 5th ed and versus other editions, earlier editions, they really cut back on feats. And that was kind of a big way to customize your character with the feat system versus now. Because before it was you leveled up and you picked feats as you went. So you could pick at 4th level, you got a stat increase, and depending on your character class, you picked up another feat, and so forth. So that's something very different in 5th edition, and I'm not sure I like it in 5th ed. And that I think I like the older version better.
I think they made a trade-off, and I think the trade-off in the end is good. They gave you the choice between a stat increase and a feat in 5th ed, whereas in 3rd ed you got a feat plus stat increase. But they made the stat increase better if you chose that in 5th, to make it a viable choice. And what they did is they cut out a lot of the feats, and they cut out a lot of the feat prerequisites, which I think is the key, and that is a good thing, because it used to be in 5th ed, I never made a character that I didn't have a full yellow legal pad sheet with every level, what I was going to take and how I was going to buy and build planned out. Second, I built a level 1 character, I built a sheet to tell me what they would look like at level 20. Because if you had a goal in mind for your character, you had to take the right feats at the right times in order to be able to get the thing you wanted at the end, because you needed those prerequisite feats. And sometimes you wound up buying feats you never even used.
Yes.
There's a famous build from 3rd edition called the Bag of Rats Fighter. It's my favorite thing. Bag of Rats Fighter. You take Power Attack, Cleave, Greater Cleave, and Whirlwind Attack.
Yes.
And you carry a bag of live rats. And then you walk into the center of a group of enemies and you drop the bag of rats. And as the rats run out of the bag in all directions, you then declare you are making a whirlwind attack against all of the rats. And then with Greater Cleave, every time you kill an enemy, you get to make a strike against an enemy that is within 5 feet of the enemy you just hit. So I attack all of the rats.
Yep. And then
I kill all the rats, and then I get to hit everybody else in the circle. And if I kill any of them, I can keep going to the next guy. Yep. It's the most ridiculous thing that has ever been conceived of in D&D. And it's beautiful because rules as written, it works. It should never work, but it works. And it was with those the combination of feats that you could put together, and those feats were all in line with each other. You had to have Power Attack to get Cleave. You had to have Cleave to get Greater Cleave, and you had to have Greater Cleave to get Whirlwind Attack. So like
that's four feats. You're talking at least 9 levels, depending on how it went in general. So yeah.
If you're a human fighter, 9 levels ish. And then you can You can literally wipe out a room full of you can kill 50 goblins in a you can walk into the center of a room with 50 goblins in it, drop a bag of rats, and walk out with 50 corpses behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Ridiculous.
Then again, back in those days, a goblin had what, 6, 8 hit points, so you didn't need the bag of rats. But
Really
as a
didn't.
level 9 character, if you're going against goblins, it should be a massacre.
So when I was running the quarantine campaign, I allowed ASI improvement and feats on level up, and it was broken as fuck. It was very broke, very OP.
I don't know what you're talking about. Dar was not broken in the least.
Everybody in that campaign was broken as fuck. But
Yeah, some of them just played it less well.
so
No offense to anybody who was in that campaign, but some of you did not build your characters in smart ways. I'm sorry.
but it was broken, and so I tell you, I even toyed with not allowing feats in the upcoming campaigns, but I decided that it's ASI or feats, so it'll level itself out.
Yeah, and to be fair, you allowed us. You halved it. You gave us 1 ASI point instead of 2, and a feat. You used basically 3rd edition rules for that campaign, but 5th edition was still pretty new then. We were all still learning it.
Well, and Tyr kind of pointed to, or you kind of alluded to a thing with that too, is the intelligent build versus the newbie build. Like in my current 5th ed campaign that I'm running, most of the players are fairly new to 5th ed, not necessarily new to gaming, and they're not, I don't know, power gaming it, if you will, as they go. So they're not making all right, here's my chart, here's what I'm going to do as I level up choices. They're doing oh, that looks cool, let's try that choice. So, and I think that's the difference in how these systems work is, if you got, like you said, in the older editions, I've got my legal pad I've researched the heck out of this, and this is where I'm going to go in the next 20 levels, versus some of your average or newer players like, ooh, that one looks cool, let's give that one a try. And you're going to have vastly different results and vastly different levels of power when it comes to your character.
Let's not forget though that the part of the reason for the planning the characters out in 3rd edition was that 3rd edition had prestige classes.
Yes.
And they were hybrid classes that you could only get if you met the prerequisites for it, just like you had to meet the prerequisites for certain feats. And there were certain feats that required multiple prerequisites that you had to have to get certain prestige classes. And so in order to, like, if I sat down and I said, I want to play an arcane archer because I think that sounds cool, I have to start planning at level 1 how to get there. Because if I level to level 2 and I don't take what I need to take at level 2, I'll never be an arcane archer.
Mm-hmm.
I will never get there.
Yeah.
So you had to plan it.
Yeah, but
as a DM, I'm going to throw a monkey wrench in your bag of rats fighter thing. I would consider them allies instead of enemies because you brought them.
He's evil. It's fine.
It doesn't say that you have to attack an enemy. It says the rules for power or for cleave said, or for whirlwind attack said you attack a target. Okay. Ally or not, that's my target.
Okay, that's different, because if it said enemy, I'd be like, those are your allies. You brought them. You've kept them alive.
It said target.
Mm-hmm. But back to the other thing. That's something I have noticed I do like with 5th ed is they got rid of the prestige classes. They've gone to the subclasses, and that allows you to change your character inside the class and and still grow it in directions you want to without having the strange prestige class or multi-class problem.
Yes, and that's the subclasses are such a good idea because you can make. I mean, all right. So everyone says the trope is, or the joke, however you want to call it, that human fighter is the most boring character in D&D, right? Not in 5th edition, it ain't.
Nope.
Not by a long shot. I mean, I've always contended that human fighter is not the most boring because it's got such versatility.
Well, yeah, especially with the subclass. What subclass you're taking as you go?
Yeah, the subclasses open it way up. Like in third edition, the human fighter wasn't the most boring because they got the most feats. So they were the most like they had the most unique little things they could do, and that I think that is the progenitor idea behind the Battle Master.
Yes,
The Battle Master is the third edition fighter because they've got all the maneuvers that they can do. And then you've got some like the reskin of that is the Cyanite. Is basically it's got several of the power. They took powers, a specific set of powers from the maneuvers of the Battle Master, reskinned them and gave them to the Cyanite, and made a really badass character who uses mind fuckery.
Yes, I noticed they added the new the Eldritch Knight too, and that's very much analogous to the Magus class out of the older editions.
Yeah. And they took a lot of them. Like you've got your Blade Singer
Mm-hmm.
in the Bards, which is a old prestige class.
Yep.
They made Arcane Archer a fucking fighter, and that bothers me. It should be a ranger, but whatever. Whatever. All right. And that's Ustad is salty about this too, and is that rangers aren't the best archers anymore. You want to play the best archer in 5th edition? You fucking play a bard.
Do not get him started.
College of Valor bard. And when you get your 5th level spell, you take Swift Quiver, and then if you're allowed to multi-class, you take a couple levels of fighter, or it's like 3 levels of fighter, just enough to get the Arcane Archer subclass, and then you go to town. But like you build a bard, you can build someone who can lay arrows down range like crazy as a bard and be the best archer on the field. Wonder Goon says Cyanites are Jedi. Yes, they are. They've got a ridiculous leap ability. It's basically, I think they get flight for a round, I think is what the power gives them. Hold on, let me just hold on.
now you gotta go look.
I'm gonna pull up my Cyanite because that's what I played in the quarantine game.
So while you're looking at going back to stat generation,
Yes.
Latin AC 2002 said that they roll their stats, but they drop 1s and 2s. I have not tried that as stats, so I'm going to ask them to please reply in chat. How well does that work out? And do you see a level balance among your players, or do you have that one that is like the lucky rolls and everybody else is just supporting cast?
Right. Well, to think about that, that gives you a set of a number between 9 and 18. If you're dropping 1s and 2s, so your lowest number you can roll is 9. The highest being 18 if you run 3d6. So that doesn't sound too bad in some ways either. To think about it, you still got a chance for some low rolls, but you're not far off on your average rolls.
Well, they say in chat that they end up with a pretty balanced party. To be honest, it's pretty awesome. That is something I will consider for season 3. Will of the Dice. We've already set the standards for season 2. For those of you who don't know, season 1's about to come to an end because my players kind of took everything that I had planned and went, nope, left turn. We're going to bypass D through X and go straight to Y and Z.
Impatient much? It's all about the journey.
No, I got to take my hats off to my players. They have done an amazing job, and what they did to fuck up my plans was brilliant, and I am so proud of them.
And you have told a wonderful story despite us fucking with you at every opportunity. So real quick, so Psy Warrior gets you get psionic energy dice. You have 8 of them. And as you go up in level, they increase from a D6 to a D10. And you can use those dice as a reaction. You can throw up a protective field, which is basically, it's like throwing up a shield spell in front of somebody. You can give them bonus AC, or I forget. Actually, I don't remember. It's either it gives them bonus AC or I think you roll your psionic energy die and then you take that off the roll to hit them. So if you're high enough level that you've got the D10, you can take up to 10 points off the roll to hit them. You have the psionic strike, which is you can add your psionic energy die to any attack you make. So you roll your psionic energy die and add that to your damage. Then you have telekinetic movement, which is you have 2 powers there. They are psi-powered leap, which is a bonus action. You can propel your body with your mind. You gain a flying speed equal to twice your walking speed until the end of your turn. And you get that once per short rest. And then you get telekinetic thrust. When you deal damage to a target with your psionic strike, you can force the target to make a strength saving throw against a DC equal to 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your intelligence modifier. If the fail saves, you knock the target prone or move it 10 feet in any direction horizontally.
Force push.
Yeah, so you got force push, you got force jump, you've got a force shield, and then you've got your blade turns into a mind lightsaber, basically. So yeah, Jedi, totally Jedi.
Yep. Yes, that's something that I've enjoyed with 5th as just the plethora they've started dropping of character archetypes.
Oh yeah,
and we're about to get more now with the new additions. The new
Spelljammer.
Yes, Spelljammer. I'm gonna have to start another campaign just to play a Spelljammer. Damn it.
Yeah, I'm just going to incorporate Spelljammer into my current shit. It's just.
I mean, so my theory has always been that it's like the multiverse, right? So you've got our plane of existence, the material plane, and then there are intersection points on your world with the other planes. But then cross space in the material plane, if you go out into space and cross it, you could get to another world that intersects the other planes similarly but differently. And so I like to think that all D&D worlds exist on the same material plane, just in different parts of the galaxy. And the extra planar things just happen to cross with them. And sometimes those planes are a little different because they're you're on a way different side of the plane than you were back over here. That's just my thinking on it.
Got to jump in. We got a question from Wondergoon. They say, I keep hearing rumors of a 6th edition D&D. Have you guys heard these rumors? Do you think it's needed? Wizards of the Coast has announced the next edition's coming out, and I think it's 2024.
I think so, yes.
It has been officially announced. Now, we don't know if it's going to be 5.5 or if it's going to be an actual 6th edition. I don't think it's needed. I think that 5th edition is good enough. I think that there's a few things that I would change, like get rid of the alignment system because it's bullshit and it serves no purpose. But I don't think completely revamping the system is needed.
I'll tell you why they're doing it. It's plain and simple. It's money. They realized in the 90s that they could only sustain putting out new material for an edition for so long, and that they make a lot more money when they put out a new edition because everyone goes and buys those books.
And buys the new, then you got to get the new expansion books for all the old worlds for the new edition. Yes, a certain other company, Games Workshop, is very good at this one. And that's pretty much their business model these days half the time. Is every 2 years they put out a new edition, so you got to buy all the new expansion books to cover whatever you're playing.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, they will put out a new edition, and whether that's, it might be 5.5. We don't know, but I can't fault them for their business model of keeping them relevant in the market and making money, because we have seen how the market can stagnate if you stay on one system for too long. However, I'll try the new system, but it's going to have to be better than what we've got now. And what we've got now is pretty fucking good. I mean, this is my favorite D&D edition. I was a hardcore 3.5 guy. Like, I was a hardcore 3.5 guy. Four can choke on a bag of dicks for all I care. Hey, you know what?
There is no 4.
Audience, if your first D&D was 4 and that's how you got here,
I'm sorry.
welcome. We're glad you stuck around, and we understand that you may have some nostalgic feelings for 4, but no amount of nostalgia can make that system good. That is a video game system put on paper, and it was not right, but they learned things. They learned things making it, and that's why it's okay, because they went back to 3rd edition for 5th edition. They pulled in some of the stuff from 4th that they kept around, and they made a better system. Getting rid of all the stupid multipliers and pluses for advantage, disadvantage, and streamlining that system, really smart. 5th edition is great. You know, a 5.5 where they clean up some stuff. Do not do what they did in 3.5. We'll say this: 3.5. They put out 3.5. Was supposed to fix the problems with 3, and then there were a couple of things that they didn't even bother to touch, and I was mad about it. They could have, like, there's some glaring errors in the Ranger class in 3 that they should have fixed in 3.5, and they didn't. And then they went back and put out an errata that fixed them later. But like, they should have fixed it. They shouldn't have gone to publish unless they had everything fixed, and they didn't. If you're gonna put out a half edition, fucking fix everything that needs fixing before you put that out. You make sure that you've got all the time in the world to go through it with a fine-tooth comb and fix everything.
Oh, I think one of the things they need to fix is the bonus action spell casting. Being able to cast a level 7th spell at bonus action is bullshit.
And that spell is all or nothing.
It doesn't matter. It's a bonus action, 7th level. But right now, guys, we're going to go ahead and take our break. Hang out for us while we be back in 10 minutes. We're going to get our beverages of choice, our snickety snacks, and all that. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back. And we are back. Thanks so much for hanging out during our break while we got our snickety snacks, our beverages of choice, and handled all the things we needed to handle. Today we are talking about everything because this is Cast Guidance where we cast tangent. We originally were talking about stat generation and got way the hell over here in left field, right field, over there.
To bonus
That
spells.
field.
The bonus actions.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I contend that spell is a bonus action spell because it has two conditions that have to be met for it to do anything. And then if they make their saving throw, nothing happens to them at all. It's a burned 7th level spell, which is what happened on Sunday night. I blew a 7th level spell, my one and only 7th level spell, and it had no effect because the creature made the save. So yeah, it's a bonus action because it's all or nothing. And even if they fail their save, they still have to either have, if they have 51 hit points and they fail their save, and they're not a Fey, Fiend, Celestial, or an Elemental, nothing happens to them. 0. Nothing.
All right. You want to break? What's the spell in its entirety for the for the audience? Since I don't think they heard our conversation over break.
The spell is Divine Word. It's a cleric spell, 7th level evocation, range of 30 feet. Duration is instantaneous. And it reads: you utter a divine word imbued with the power that shaped the world at the dawn of creation. Choose any number of creatures you can see within the 30 feet range. Each creature that can hear you must make a charisma saving throw. On a failed save, the creature suffers an effect based on its current hit points. 50 hit points or fewer, it is deafened for 1 minute. 40 hit points or fewer, it is deafened and blinded for 10 minutes. 30 hit points or fewer, it is blinded, deafened, and stunned for 1 hour. 20 hit points or fewer, it is killed instantly. And regardless of its hit points, if it is a celestial, an elemental, a fey, or a fiend, and it fails its saving throw, it is forced back to its plane of origin if it isn't already there, and can't return to your current plane for 24 hours by any means short of a wish spell. So like I said, that is 2 conditions that it has to meet for anything to happen. And then if it makes its saving throw, nothing happens at all.
And it's a 7th level bonus action spell.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. It's a 7th level spell. Look at the charts. You can only ever get total casting of 2 7th level spells, even at level 20. Otherwise, you get 1 7th level spell a day.
Yes.
So
and you're burning it to cast a bonus action spell that has a like 2/3 chance of not affecting anything. But when it works, it's amazing.
Yes. I assume you've done this to Tyr, and there's much gnashing of teeth. Much gnashing of the teeth.
Once they failed the save, and they were a fiend, so they were immediately banished, and that was in the fight in the marketplace on the name is escaping me. The island where Zaraj comes from.
Estruzilian.
We were in the temple or the home of the council. We were with the council of the island, and they were being attacked by shadow fiends. And I saved one of the council members by banishing the creature with that spell. After we had beaten it down some, because I wanted to make sure it had an effect. So that's another thing. You're better off to wait and throw that late in the combat when they've taken a bunch of damage. And because it's a bonus action spell, you still have your action. So as an action, you can throw a cantrip. So because I know it's already taken damage before I throw that spell, Toll the Dead is my go-to cantrip to go with it. So I Toll the Dead, give it a little bit more damage, and then I throw that bonus action spell. and hope it fails its save. So I'm giving it two in that round. It has 2 saving throws, and if it makes both of them, I'm useless that round. I do nothing, and I burned a 7th level spell slot.
Yep. I could buy that. Okay, is it better or worse than counterspelling a heal?
Oh, it's far better than counterspelling. Everything's better than counterspelling a heal. Never do that. Fuck off. Go to jail.
Yeah, I did, bastards. I set it up to counterspell the healer in our party, and my poor shaman orc had no chance. They hit him first round with everything, and he died before he could do anything about it. I'm like, you bastards.
It's the Jedi way. Take out the healers first.
That's right, damn players. Disguise my shamans better.
Or have more than one.
Tyr is salty about that spell because it is so powerful, and it's a bonus action, but it's a bonus action because it functions like a cantrip. It's all or nothing. Almost every other spell that's an action, if you fail the save, they still take half damage. With this, they take nothing if they make the save. I think I said fail the save a second ago instead of if they make the save, they take half damage on an action spell. So it doesn't count as an action spell because it's all or nothing. It's like an uber cantrip.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Speaking of all or nothing spells, this comes over to a current rant I'm having with 5th Ed in general, because the sorcerers in my party all are defaulting to firing crossbows at their targets. I'm going, but you have these spells like Witch Bolt and Chaos Bolt and Firebolt. Why aren't you using them? Because they can't hit the broadside of a freaking barn, and they don't want to burn that slot. And I'm looking into this. There's a reason you don't see mage types on the local softball team at all.
Yeah, but you should be using your spell to hit modifier to hit. So you should be using your best stat plus your proficiency when you cast a spell that has an attack. So you would think they would be decent at it because they should be using their best stat.
They are, but D&D Beyond dice rolls hate them apparently.
Okay, there's that. You can't account for bad dice rolls.
But
That can happen to anything. If they're going to have bad dice rolls, they're going to have bad dice rolls with a less modifier for shooting a crossbow.
Mm-hmm. But they don't burn the spell slot for the crossbow. They just burn a point of ammo.
I guess I'm of the opinion that if you blow your spells and then resort to the crossbow, because the spells have a better chance at hitting. That's just me.
Yeah, I was looking at it, but just in general, though, as you level up, those low-level spells, you get you got an 18 in your primary stat for your casting. That's 4 to hit. Then you add your proficiency bonus. You're looking at what? 4 points. 4 points by level 10. That's a +8. Average die roll, you hit an AC of 18 at level 10. What's your average AC of the creatures you're fighting at that point?
It depends on the DM.
Yeah, true. Does depend on the DM.
It depends on the encounter, the number of creatures you're putting him against. If you're putting him against something big,
yeah,
it depends on how the CR is balancing, because it's number of hit points versus how hard it is to hit versus what kind of damage it does. How it fits into the action economy.
Yeah, because at 5th level, you got an orc just straight out of the book, an orc chieftain, because I just used it, has an AC of 16 right off the bat. He's a 5th level challenge rating.
Right. So, but all right. So let's say they have an AC of 18 or 19, whatever. Which is it's not easy to get above like a 19 in 5th Ed unless you're really spec'd for it, unless you're spec'ing hard in that direction. You're using a shield and heavy armor, and you have a good dex score, and you've got magical equipment. But let's say, disregarding all that, so let's say 19 would be a high armor class for a bad guy at 10th level. So
on 11 plus, you got a decent chance of hitting.
yeah. So you have to roll slightly above average in order to hit with that spell attack and not waste a spell slot. And a lot of those spells, your Scorching Ray, your Eldritch Blast, your whatnot, are all, you get multiple bolts at that level. You get multiple rays. So you're getting to roll multiple times to hit, and even if you miss one or two, you're still going to hit something and deal damage. And if you're playing really smart and you know that creature is vulnerable to X elemental damage, and I'm using a spell that does that, even if I only hit with 1 out of 3 bolts, I'm doing double damage because they're vulnerable to it.
Yes, and what I'm finding is they're defaulting the spells on my end to that are requiring saving throws instead of a to hit.
I mean, I feel like I'm robbed a little bit of the chance to roll to hit a bad guy when I cast a spell that requires a saving throw, but at the same time, like, I've seen the way Tyr rolls as a DM, so like anytime I get to look at him, there's a grim satisfaction that comes with I need you to make a saving throw. There's a power in being a player and looking at the DM, because when the DM says make a saving throw to a character, there's a gut clench that comes along with that every single time, no matter how cool you are.
Yes.
Being able to look at the DM and go, I need that uber monster you put out here to make a saving throw for me.
Terry, you have a response?
So, fuck you. This is why I don't like electronic rollers. They're supposed to be programmed to be balanced, but I have found more than not they're not. I prefer using good old-fashioned dice, and I trust my players to be honest with their rolls. And if they're not, the only person they're cheating is themselves at the moment. So
there have been times when I have rolled in your game, and I'm like, "Oh, this will be a lot of fun if I did not fail that saving throw." Oh well. But then everyone else in the party does, and I'm like, "Oh, thank God one of us made it." Otherwise, this is a TPK.
Yeah.
But no, like, yeah, like I love, part of what I love about playing the Tempest Cleric is that I have ability that I get to use 5 times, I think, per short rest. Where when I get hit, the person who hit me takes lightning damage because I'm just crackling with electricity. And so, like, every time Tyr hits me, I'm like, I'm gonna need a DC 16 saving throw, please. Oh, you chose to hit me? Oh, good.
So back to your rant there, Raph. Have you talked with the players about this, and what is your plan to address it going forward?
Oh, you're a jerk.
Yes.
Part of it is they've shifted their tactics. They're, like I said, they're starting to take more of the spells that require saving throws on my end to do damage, like Scorcher or Agonizer Scorcher, which is just a straight up you make a check and you take damage or you don't. And I don't know about some of the other ones. They're first level spells, but they can be cast at a higher level. And I don't know. I'm not sure how I want to address that in the campaign. I'm trying to see how they do it in some ways.
And have you reminded them that they have sorcerer points so they can always twin their spells?
Yes. They're like I said, I'm playing with people who aren't familiar with 5th Ed. I'm not super familiar with it. As we're working through some of it, they started realizing, wait a second, the sorcery point means I can get this spell slot back. Yes, it does.
And here's the thing. This is just my personal opinion. But if you're role-playing in a campaign where someone is playing a sorcerer, I think that you as the DM are incumbent to, anytime that one of them someone in your campaign tries to like slip in a spell casting, like, like they're trying to talk their way past a guard, and you've got a cleric who casts guidance. That is a very visible thing, or should be. It should be obvious that that guy is casting a spell, which should gain a negative reaction from the guard. I, as a DM in that case, would roll, because otherwise, sorcerers get the metamagic, have the option to have metamagic subtle spell, which means that no one would notice them cast it. So if you don't play up the fact that casting spells is a very visual thing that everyone's going to notice, you're taking something away from that character being able to cast subtle spell. And so you have to sort of be on it the rest of the time and not let the players get away with like subtly, like, I'm going to give you guidance on this. Because you've got a sorcerer who has the ability to, who you're taking away their cool trick otherwise.
I'll keep that in mind, because we do have a cleric who likes to cast guidance a lot.
Yeah, it's
guidance,
verbal and semantic. So
is guidance semantic? I thought it was just verbal.
nope, verbal and semantic.
I'm on my my character, right? Yeah, verbal and semantic. So yeah, they've got to do a hand gesture and say a word. So the second that they start moving their hands around, the guard should then be on edge, being like, "What are you doing?"
Yes. I'll remember that. They haven't really used cast guidance in social situations. It's mainly been for skill checks and arcane checks to see what's going on. So I haven't.
I need
really
a bell for when we inadvertently say the name of the show. Ding ding ding.
So yeah, that was kind of my, as I started looking, because I like to play in systems, and I like looking at how the system works when it comes to, okay, how's this work? How does this affect things later on? That's kind of how I like to build things.
And I will say there's nothing more frustrating as a player than I put I chose my metamagic as subtle spell so I could get away with shit, and then watching everybody else in the party get away with shit.
Yes.
That I having to spend a point to do. If that's going to be the case, then I want to go back and I want to respend that metamagic slot for something that is actually going to give me something cool, since that slot subtle spell is not getting me anything in this campaign.
Yes. And speaking of metamagic feats, feats, I do appreciate how 5th has added the metamagic feat to the sorcerer and made it part of the class, versus the old 3.5 where it was an actual feat. You had to build up to it, and it really messed with the level of the spell, so you really didn't take them very often.
Right.
I got to address something in chat. Me and Rudolph Rudolph Muvo are the same way. The higher the level, the more involved the hand motions. So cast guidance could be like, "Hey,
ding ding ding,
here you go," versus fireball that'd be like some Avatar: The Last Airbender bullshit. So we're on the same wavelength there, Rudolph. Thank you. I'm glad someone agrees with me on that.
Oh yeah, yes. Absolutely. Yeah, so as a DM, you should be looking at what your characters have on their sheets, and then if they have something that gives them an ability, not letting other people get away with doing that thing without a cost, because they specifically spent part of their character or took something in their character that lets them do a thing that's unusual. Don't make that thing a normal part of the world. That's just my opinion. I've been wrong once or twice. Not this time, but once or twice.
So above table, as we like to say, the faces I'm making are not at what being said. For those of you that are new, I have a debilitating back injury and I'm a chronic pain sufferer, and today is a very bad pain day. So the faces I make are not at Loch or at Raff. They're at my pain. I don't want people to think I'm over here giving you guys mean mugs because of shit you're saying.
Oh no, we know you are.
Yeah,
it's both. Don't lie.
That's how it works.
We earned those mean mugs. Don't take them from us. I spent character points to get those.
That's right. It's like you earn you are bastards on the stream,
right?
Mm-hmm.
So hey, I'm going to bring us back to the topic of conversation.
What? Are we coming back down to the original topic?
Yeah, so we can cast tangent again off of that.
Sweet.
But no, so I have encountered there's a TikTok user that I found whose name is Randolph or Rudy something. Hold on. Got him right here. Freddie. It's Freddie. I was way off. Freddie Pow Pow. And he has on his channel put out a 5-part series on different methods of character stat generation that are all interesting and fun. One of them, the one I won't get into, the first one he suggested is you create characters with the names of the stats in Super Smash Brothers and let them fight as AI against each other, and then the order that they won in determines, and how long they were in determines what the stats are, and that's how you get them. That one was okay. The next one he suggested was playing blackjack. Now this is a cool one. I really like this one. So you go through the stats in order, and you deal yourself a blackjack hand, and you're trying to get as close to 21 as possible without going over. You can continue to take cards as many as you want. If you go over, however, the difference between 21 and your and the number you actually got is the stat you get.
Oh shit!
So if you go over and you get a 24, your stat's a 3.
Ooh.
But you can stand on a 17 and be like, I'm good. I got 17. That's a good stat. When you get the 12s and the 13s, you really got to be like, if I get a 10, then I get like a 1.
Yes.
Like, so it requires a little game theory from your players. I really like that version. It's mean, but it also can be really good. I'm also very good at blackjack, so like I think I would make a good character that way. You guys have any thoughts on that one?
I suck at blackjack, so no.
I'm doing okay at blackjack. I can dig it, but you're right. I know some people would suck at it, but the math nerd in me says, "Ooh, that could be fun."
The next one he suggested, there's an improv game that actors often play as a warm up. Everyone joins hands. The DM is not allowed to be in the circle of hands for this because the DM could influence things in a way that you don't want. Everybody joins hands. There is no communication allowed, no squeezing of hands or anything. Everybody holds hands and closes their eyes, and then you have to start saying, you have to try and count. But the second that 2 people try to speak at the same time, you fucked up the game. It has to be, you have to trust the next person to say the next number, or not in any order. Anybody in the circle can say the next number, but you have to trust that you're the one saying the number. And the point at which you fuck it up, the last number that you didn't fuck up is the score, and everyone gets the same stats this way.
Ooh.
No.
No.
So you're all having to work together, and it builds animosity at your table between characters already, because the guy who fucked up and got you a 3 in a stat is the guy that your character's going to have an issue with from the start.
All right, we got a question from chat. With the semantic components, wouldn't it be opposite? As the higher level the spell, usually higher the character level, meaning more practice at casting spells in general. So wouldn't it be less movements? No, actually, because the spells at higher level are more involved. Now, it takes less time to do the hand movements, but you would have more involved versus cast guidance, rock on, versus fireball, where you're doing this or that or whatever.
Or versus divine word.
You are you are pulling in more magical energy from the plane of magic with your hand movements. You are doing a more complicated task to pull in more energy to fuel your spell. Therefore, it is a more complicated movement that is bigger. That's the way I see it. With a cantrip or a bonus action spell, the reason those are faster and require less is because you're only pulling a small amount of energy. The spell we were being contentious about, Divine Word, is
I will turn this show around right now. Do not make me.
does not have somatic component. It is a verbal only component, but it is you saying a word that resonated at the dawn of creation. So you are just calling upon an ancient force with your mouth. So there's no big gesture. You are tapping into primordial power with a word. So that spell does not require. That's why it's a bonus action, because I'm not drawing in a bunch of power. I am uttering a word that is primal from the start of the universe. That is one of the bedrock words of creation. So I think that's also part of why it is a bonus action spell, because it does not have a material or a somatic component to it. It is strictly a verbal. All I have to do is say it.
To cast tangent on this, Lollipop brought up a valid point. As you get higher level as a caster, you're much more experienced at moving your fingers around a lot and doing your motions. But a higher level spell requires more motions, but because you're a high level caster, you can do it all in one action. As a random thought or a game system thing, I can cast a 5th level spell as a 1st level character, but it's going to take me 5 rounds because I've got to go through the motions much slower because I'm not as experienced at doing the motions.
So,
as an alternate thought process for a different game system whatsoever.
Oh, yeah, I would agree with that. I would say, I would be fine with having a rule at the table if I were DMing that if you are a lower level caster and you want to cast a high level spell, you can make an Arcana check to see if you can do it, but it's going to take you 1 round per level of the spell you're going to cast to do it, because you have to go very slowly. And I think perhaps each round you have to make an Arcana check to make sure that you did not fuck it up. And if you fuck up one of them, the spell doesn't go off. You wasted 3 rounds trying to get there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wondergoon says the circle of stats is not desirable. As you said, Locke, it can create animosity and create a metagaming situation. At least that's how I see it. And I agree.
I don't think you're wrong. However, if you're starting a new game and you're making stats and the players haven't met each other yet, I think you might want a little bit of friendly animosity at the table. You're not really mad at that person, but like the way I'm not really mad at Tyr for counterspelling my heals, but I'm gonna give him shit about it. When that character walks up that I've never met before, I'm gonna find a reason to poke at that character, and it's gonna make interesting role play between us, and it creates a role playing dynamic. It's the same as there's a system called the Web that I've seen used. It's not a gaming system, but it's a way to everybody at the table has to choose 2 other people at the table and create a bond with them.
Ooh.
And that bond can be a rivalry. It can be a kinship, whatever. You create bonds with the people at the table, and everyone picking 2 people and creating a link to them somehow creates a web that the DM can play with, and it also helps bring the cast together because everyone knows each other somehow, and even that friendly animosity can be a good role-playing thing at the table. And that's the way I see it. It depends on your players, really, as to whether or not that animosity will work out to be a good thing or not. But I see it as these are brand new characters. They have to figure out how they're going to react to each other, and they're either going to like each other or they're not right off the jump. and this gives them something to play with.
Right. So now I gotta start a fourth campaign because that sounds fun too.
And
Yeah.
this is why I get woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning with DM brain going, this would be great, because Loch does shit like that.
I'm like, ooh, that could be fun too. Damn it.
Right? Yeah, no, this is my job. So the last of the weird ways to, and this is my favorite, to generate your stats, is to pair off your players if you have an even number, and have them play a game. And that game is, I forget the name of the game, but basically they sit across from each other. They each have a pair of cards. One card says ally, the other one says betray. And they go through the list of stats. You save Constitution for last. They each announce to each other what class they are playing, because that makes a difference. And then they can have a discussion, and then they each choose one of their two cards and put it face down on the table. Then they both turn them over. If they both choose ally, they both get a 15 in that stat. If one chooses, so they both choose betrayal, they both get a 10 in that stat. If one of them chooses ally and one of them chooses betray, the one who chose ally gets a 7, and the one who chose betray gets an 18.
Ooh.
Oh,
Whoa.
that would just no. That's these things are interesting. It'd be interesting to try them for a one shot, but you're just asking for people to be pissed off at each other.
But now wait, now imagine this though. You've got a wizard and a barbarian sitting across from each other playing this game. They're on strength. The barbarian has the choice to choose ally and hope the wizard says ally and they both get 15s, or the barbarian can choose betrayal and hope that the wizard takes ally, because the wizard doesn't care if his strength score is super low and the barbarian wants the biggest strength, and the wizard might want the barbarian to be super strong to protect him and not care if he has a 7 strength. So like there's some real, like, because you both know each other's classes, you both know like what this stat means to that character, and you want a good party, but you're also looking out for yourself. So it creates a really interesting like game theory thing going on. And then that's why you save Constitution for last, because by the last one you both have an idea of how both of you are playing this particular game, and everybody wants good con.
I think it makes it too metagamey. Because like you said, well, I'm a wizard, you're a barbarian. I know that you want a high strength, so I'm going to go with ally just so that either which way you get your high strength.
Yep.
So I don't like that idea.
It's interesting, but it on the surface it sounds fun, entertaining, but knowing knowing players and their sneaky tactics, you start digging into it, it's actually really easy to manipulate those scores.
I mean, you could both, in theory, they could both just choose ally every time and get all 15s, which would not be a bad character. But yeah, so I mean, like, I think it would be a fun experiment to try, especially if you have players that you know are going to not cheese it, who are going to play it like,
Yeah, so that'll be a further cast guidance later down the road.
We'll play that with each other, see how it goes, see what characters we make.
That might be. But yeah, no, that's another cast tangent. Yeah.
We need one more guest star so we can pair off properly.
Mm-hmm.
We'll bring you start on for that one.
There you go.
Ooh, that could be fun.
I don't know if Wonder Goon's gone, but if not, have a great day, Wonder Goon. Glad you could drop in.
Yeah, they had to bounce. So.
Yeah. Wonder Goon is one of my former DMs. I played many a game, some second ed, because that was before 3 came out. We played second ed. We played it. We had a champions campaign that lasted for like 10 years. We played some villains and vigilantes and things like that.
Oof.
So.
That was not an insult, Stod. We said we needed one more. I thought that would be fun for you to come on and do. That wasn't an insult.
Apparently, having to hang out with us is an insult to you, Stod.
I
Yeah,
was
that's
gonna
what
say,
it is.
Yeah.
you know, there's no pleasing some people.
I mean,
Mhm.
you know, some people think the second edition had the best archers, and I don't know about that. I'm just
I don't know.
I swear to God, Loch. I swear to God. I will turn this show around.
Whee! Yes, Dad.
Hey, you know what? Ustad already gave me a cool Han Solo blaster. So like I got what I wanted out of this deal. I don't know. He can be mad at me all he wants now. Love you, Ustad.
Yeah, I'm still waiting on mine.
Mm-hmm.
Stod, where's my blaster, Stod? Stod, where's my blaster?
Right.
I keep it right here next to me in case I have to shoot Greedo. I mean, I'm gonna pull the trigger first. Just know.
Oh yes, damn straight he shot first.
Damn right.
All right, so casting tangent again, since we're into the spells type issues here.
Mm-hmm.
Custom spells, homebrew spells. Do you allow them, or do you use them, or what are your thoughts on them?
I'm a yes. I am for custom spells. Now, I think they need a lot of oversight. I think they work best when you take an existing spell and you modify it to be like a different spell. For example, I at one point in Tyr's game, as Karak tried to, Tyr has a rule at the table that lets us, if we make an Arcana check that has a high difficulty, in the moment, we can alter a spell that we already have to do something slightly different. I once attempted to, on the fly, alter protection from energy from a self spell to a mass protection from energy for the party, which raised the spell up by 2 levels, and would have functioned just like any of the other mass X spells. So there's already an existing spell, and you're modifying it to behave differently in one particular way, and you're using other spells that function that way as the template for how this transfers. And doing that, I think, is great. Also, just renaming a spell or reskinning it, I think, is perfectly acceptable. If you want to have Scorching Ray and have it be Radiant Ray instead, I'm okay with that if it fits the motif of your character.
I'm okay with homebrewing spells, but there's caveats. One, it has to be like we have to work together hand in hand. I'm not going to let you create Word of Ultimate Destruction that will destroy the entire realm or some shit like that.
Are you the villain?
Two, it depends on your class. How in tune with the arcane are you? So you would need to be someone that actually studies arcane, not just relies on, you know, the fact that, hey, look, I can cast a couple of spells. But I actually worked with Miv, which was Locke's partner. He and I sat down and created a couple. What sold me on their character was that they studied divination, but through cheese.
It's a real thing. It exists in the real world. There are people who do divination based on the process of making cheese. It's a real thing. It's got a name. I don't remember what the name for it is, but it exists.
So we sat down and worked through a couple of different divination spells, a summon cheese spell, things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't see why not. What's your thoughts on it, Raph?
I agree with you. It has to be well balanced. It has to work with the DM. The current spell that I'm working on or has been brought to my attention is the spell Yeetus Deletus, because reasons. And what they want to do is they want to combine levitate with essentially a delayed blast fireball. So you're talking a seventh level spell, levitates you 50 foot in the air, and then blows up like a fireball. And if you survive, you take falling damage for falling back down to the earth unless you can fly somehow.
I think being that high a level, that would be kind of cool. I may steal that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, we were talking about it in one of our conversations with some other people, and they brought, well, what about a spell that's called Yeetus Deletus? I'm like, all right, now we got to come up with something just for that name.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So,
welcome, Dean DeVille. I'm sorry that you've never played D&D. Start hanging out. We give away one-shots where people get to play.
mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, welcome.
Let's see. Rudolph says, I differ slightly. I let an elemental effect be replaced by another elemental effect, but you can't replace fire with necrotic, for example. Yeah, I will reskin spells. Like if you're playing an ice-based wizard, so instead of fireball, you have ice blast, things like that.
I'm personally even okay with replacing fire with necrotic, because like I don't think it changes the game balance that much. It really doesn't, because there are going to be things that are just absolutely immune to. There are going to be more things that are immune to necrotic than there are things that are vulnerable to it.
Yes.
And there are so many things that have a vulnerability to fire that you're stripping away a portion of that spell's power, because you don't know, is this spell, the necrotic, is it going to affect them as much as the fire would, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Well, and especially in 5th ed, they've kind of balanced out all those energy bases too. So they all have their effect, but they're not one over the worst. One is better than the other. So yeah, you could swap in necrotic versus fire or ice with no problem.
I think the only one that I might hesitate on is the one I used as an example, which is Radiant.
Mm-hmm.
Radiant is very specific and damages. There are certain creatures that are really only affected by Radiant things.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're playing in a campaign where there are the majority of the enemies, take Scions of Oblivion, for example, we fight a lot of shadow creatures, and they are vulnerable to radiant damage because they are shadows. So light hurts them. So in that campaign, letting someone swap Fireball for Radiant Blast or whatever is going to become overpowered in that particular campaign. So it heavily varies based on what the campaign setting looks like and what they're facing.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not fighting enemies constantly, that Radiant is the thing. Like, there's a reason in the Blood Hunter class that only one Blood Hunter gets the Crimson Rite that gives them Radiant damage. And that is the Ghost Slayer. It's the only one that gets Radiant on their Crimson Rite. And it's because they are specifically designed for hunting this kind of monster.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of monster is vulnerable to this. Everybody else doesn't need that because they're not spec'd for that.
Yep.
So that's the only place where I would see an issue is possibly Radiant damage based on the campaign.
Yep. Rudolph Movio, force damage my concern. I believe there's only one creature in 5e immune to force damage.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, but like there's a lot of spells that deal force damage.
Yes.
There really are. So if it would depend, like anything that's psychic, or any of the psionics do a lot of force damage, not psychics, but psionics.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're playing a psionic character and you're in a campaign, you've got an advantage because you're dealing force damage to everything. So like I mean, is it gonna like magic missile is force damage, and every wizard on the planet has that spell, and it hits every time. So like, just because there are only a handful of creatures are immune to it, how many creatures are vulnerable to it? How many creatures are taking extra damage from it?
Mm-hmm.
That's the real question. Are you exploiting a vulnerability, not overcoming an immunity?
True, and that there is a difference in that. Tyr.
No, I want to. I'm going off topic here, but I got to address something that Dean DeVille says that they think it may be too late for them to learn D&D. It's never too late. Unfortunately, we don't have a Discord server right now. I'm working on building it, but I'm working so much overtime right now that I don't have the time right now. The overtime is supposed to end in June, July, so I'll be getting a Discord server. I'm on Twitter TYR at TYR _the _DM, just like my name in chat. Hit me up on Twitter. We can talk. Like I said, I give away one shots from time to time on our streams. We stream here Saturday or Fridays at noon. We stream our actual play games Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Come hang out. You may win. And if nothing else, maybe we can find a way to hook you up with a one shot. We've done it for others. So
also listen to actual play podcasts and
Yep.
and D&D streams. Go and watch them. You'd be surprised how much you learn watching other people play. You'll start to get a handle on it. You'll see how things work. Buy a book, buy the player's handbook, read it. You're not going to understand all of it. Someone's not going to have context for you yet, but read through it, familiarize yourself with the basics of it, then go and listen to some actual play. Ours are available. They're all on YouTube and on your podcatcher if you want to listen to it as a podcast instead of watching it on YouTube. And there are plenty of other great actual play D&D podcasts and streams out there that you can also listen to. Pick a few, listen to them, and you'd be amazed at how much you pick up. And then as you after you've listened to them and like sort of gotten a feel for how you see people playing it, then go back and look through your player's handbook again, read through it again, and things will start to make more sense for you. And that is the best, like, because I'm a learn by doing, or learn by seeing done.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I had played 3rd edition, I played 2nd edition, I played 1st edition. You know, I never played 4th edition. I read the book and I hated it. Neither here nor there. But when 5th edition came out, I was like, okay, what is this 5th edition thing about? How do they? What changes did they make? And before I even bought a book, I went and found a podcast, and I listened to a group, most of whom were new to D&D, play through a game on this podcast, and I got a real sense for how the new system worked, and was very familiar with the system by the time I sat down to play my first game. And it's a luxury that you have now that I didn't have when I was 8 years old and started playing D&D with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
and there are a ton of actual play podcasts, videos. You can go to YouTube. Critical Role is the most famous, but there's one called Adventure Zone. There's Dungeons and Daddies. There are stuff. We're on YouTube. We're on wherever you get your podcasts. There's a ton of them out there.
Mm-hmm.
So
The Adventure Zone was the one I was talking about, because the Adventure Zone is the McElroy brothers and their dad, and and half the cast had never played D&D before sitting down at that table to play. So starting at the first episode of the Adventure Zone and listening, you're listening to a group of people play D&D, 2 of them for the first time, so they're having to figure out how the rules work. And so you will get to go on that journey with them as they try to figure it out. And if you have a rule book that you can reference, you can really start to pick up what
Mhm.
they're doing and how it works.
But yeah, some of the best ways to do it there too is get involved.
Yeah.
If you find a local group, jump in and play, and you'll learn. It's a lot of fun.
Yep. Find
Yeah.
your local gaming store and ask around. Most gaming stores have regular people that come in. There's people usually looking for players and stuff. There's the Adventure League.
Mhm.
You know, just you know, there's a lot of different ways to get into it, and the best way to do it is to play it.
Yep.
So, all right, guys, that wraps up our time for today. Thank you guys so much for being such a wonderful audience as always. Like I said, we have the absolute best fans.
Yeah,
let's remind people who we are, where they can find us, and let's get the hell out of here.
Hi, gamers. I'm still Lot Clark, and you can find me on Dark and Queen of the Shadow Rose and Scions of Oblivion, respectively, on Saturday and Sunday nights, right here on Will of the Dice. And you can find me on the Book of Faces and the Twitter Patience at Loch Unruly. That's Loch with an H.
Hi, I am Raff the Mad. I'm hanging out generally in the audience, but I do guest host here occasionally. I do have a Twitter account now. You can find me at BLK Dragon 13,000.
And I'm Tyr the DM. I'm the world's okayest DM. And you can find me on Twitter at Tyr_the_DM. Before we go, guys, just a reminder, things get dark and hard, times get tough. The world is in a state of chaos right now, but you're not alone. There are people out there that love you, that will be your strength, that will be your shelter, that will be a piece of rest. Let them until you are strong enough to be that for someone else. Remember that love and inclusion, these are the torches that light a path to a better tomorrow. Come join us and be torchbearers. And until next time, if someone doesn't know, don't cast aspersions, cast guidance. We love you guys.
Love you guys.